welcome to SciShow Tangents, the lightly competitive science knowledge showcase. I'm your host, Hank Green, and joining me this week is, as always, is science expert and Forbes 30 Under 30 education luminary, Sari Riley.
Hello.
And our resident everyman, the incredible Sam Schultz.
I don't deserve the incredible.
Who wrote the incredible?
I'm just
Did he
a
write
man.
incredible? Or did Sam write it?
Do you think I would write that about myself?
I don't know.
What do you take me
Sometimes
for?
you're like, I'd like to be recognized.
Well, I would, but
Sometimes you like to feel a little bit like Bruce Banner.
yes,
Yeah.
the incredible. Yeah, Bruce Banner was the incredible one, Sari. Have you ever read a comic book in your life?
Yeah, I got it right this time.
The Hulk was incredible. In comparison, Bruce Banner, not incredible.
Oh.
All right. There's something I'd like to ask you, too. If, when you got exposed to gamma radiation, you became a giant green monster, when you got angry, what would your name be? Would you be what would the superlative before Hulk be? Because we'd all be Hulks, obviously. But the Incredible Hulk is taken. So what kind of Hulk would you be?
I don't know enough words.
I think Sam might be the adorable Hulk.
Oh, I would like to be the adorable Hulk.
Just a little guy who's a big guy.
I'll still fight you, but come on.
He's just a little guy who's a big guy.
That's what it says in big bold letters on the cover of my comic book.
Mhm.
I think I could go somewhere with that.
I guess I'm just naming all of you because I think Sari would be the amicable Hulk.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Sari would never even turn into the Hulk because
Yeah.
she'd be like, I understand why you feel that way, villain.
I'm not able to be angry.
I sympathize
The incapable
completely.
Hulk.
That's
The
it.
incapable Hulk,
Just
yeah.
normal. Just a normal girl. That's what her comic would say. Hank, what would you be?
I don't know, you guys. I gave away all the good ones.
I'm really bad at this. I wish I wasn't.
At adjectives?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Come on.
you want to end up with something that ends in able, which there's a lot of. Because I don't think I'd be like the forgettable Hulk.
No.
No, opposite of that.
Go in a rhyme zone.
For Abel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the insufferable Hulk?
I think that might be right.
He tweeted one too many times.
Yeah. Okay. Every week, before we be meaner to me, every week you're on
You said it about
Tangents.
yourself.
I know, but then you said you all agreed with me.
We were supposed to say, no, Hank. You
No.
are the applaudable hoax.
Every week here on SciShow Tangents, we get together to try to one-up, amaze, and delight each other with science facts while also trying to stay on topic and failing. Our panelists are playing for glory and for Hank Bucks, which I will be awarding as we play. And then one of them at the end of the episode will win and get to have that for the rest of the week. But before we get to all of that, we got to introduce this week's topic with the traditional science poem this week from Sari.
When you have two things to stick together, like a jacket and patch, or a cup and a feather, you begin with the question, what tools should I use? A needle and thread, or some nails and screws? Wrap them with rope and tie some knots? Weld them together with that blowtorch you bought? There's staples or buttonholes, or perhaps you might choose a tape sticker bottle of mighty fine glues. Take a rock and a stick and some sap from a tree, then you've got an axe and can chop through debris. Or mix flour and water and you've got a way to mache some paper, or whatever they say. And of course, there's that aisle of the hardware store with rubber, cement, and epoxies galore. Adhesives that you can squeeze or spray, each with a purpose, like joining rubber to clay. So if you want to avoid a big sticky mess, please read the label and be careful, I guess.
Wow. Mache some paper are really good.
So the topic for this week is glue. But before we dive in, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back to figure out what is even glue. All right, we're back. Sari, what is even glue?
Oh, gosh. You know?
It feels like such a catch-all to me that it's just like, well, there's not even, worth defining. No one's even tried.
Yeah. Well, it's like sticky, but you use it for stickiness. Because some things are sticky but aren't glue.
Yeah.
Because they're just snails.
But I think you could use a snail as glue, but a snail's not always glue. You know what I'm saying? It's the application of the thing that makes it glue.
I think that's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
you use it, you want to stick things together. And what do you use to stick those things together? Probably glue.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
What
I mean, there's other ways. You could weld.
But when you're welding, aren't you like melting something into a goo that then dries into hardness? So is the glue? Is there a momentary glue there?
Is solder glue? I don't know.
Is solder?
No.
Solder is just lead, right? Solder is how it's spelled.
Solder.
Yeah, that's right.
Low melting alloy. I think solder is solder.
Okay, whatever.
And glue
I
is
agree,
the rest of
but
the
I
sticky
don't know
stuff.
why. I don't know why solder is, because like if you gave me a glue and you said in order to get this glue to work, you have to heat it up almost as if it is a hot glue that comes out of a hot glue gun, then I wouldn't say, no, that's just plastic. I'd say that's glue.
A soldering iron is a hot glue gun.
A soldering iron is a hot glue gun with metal that comes out of it.
Yeah. Welders are just crafting.
Yeah, I mean, glues can be a lot of things. If you look back in history, so nowadays we've got lots of different glues that are a lot of plastic based. But there's glue on tape and sticky notes. Like that's a kind of glue. Those are just like pressure sensitive glues. I guess the more general term for glue is adhesive. So if you see the word adhesive, it's also a glue, probably.
That opens it up to a lot of stuff I feel like maybe doesn't count. Like I wouldn't have thought to look up for this episode, such as tape. But tape has glue on it, I guess, huh?
Tape has glue on it. Part of tape is not the glue, which is the plasticky part on the outside that isn't sticky. So the non-sticky plastic is not glue, but the sticky plastic is glue. And I think glue has something to do. So we did an episode on sticky things where I basically just talked about glue in the definition section, I think. Because the sciencey part, if you want to start getting into the chemistry, which we also don't really know about glue, but the main things to know are adhesion and cohesion. The two hesions, they come up in all kinds of sticky conversations. So adhesion is when you stick two different things together. So if you were gluing a patch to a jean jacket, you want the glue to stick to the patch, you want the glue to stick to the jean, and that helps adhere the surfaces together. And then there's cohesion, which is the same thing sticking together. So you want the glue molecules to stay stuck to themselves. You don't want them to, slip past each other. You need them to clump together, harden up, get sticky. And so when glue doesn't work, it's usually a failure of one of those points. It's either a failure of adhesion, the glue peels away from the surface you're trying to stick it to. It's a failure of cohesion, which means the glue molecules didn't set up properly. So the glue is just like still runny or sticky, or a substrate failure, like the jacket melts when you put glue on it because you didn't read the label. Yeah. And then you put the bad glue on the jacket.
Have we ever been in the situation where the glue succeeded in holding the thing in place, but the thing that was being held in place itself just ripped away? As I've done that, but I've done that with a wall.
I've ripped big chunks out of the SciShow studio walls before. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I believe that. Sometimes the glue is stronger than the thing holding the glue. For example, also, anytime I've ever gotten super glue on my fingers.
Glue is really one of the things that you encounter the most often in your day-to-day life that's like, this makes sense that it is sticky and it sticks to stuff, and then somebody asks you why it does it, and then you're like,
oh gosh.
Because it's sticky. I don't know. And then it gets kind of scary.
Stickiness is almost as weird as like magnets. It's like, wait a second. You mean I can touch this and then I have to keep touching it?
Yeah, for a long, long time.
I can't stop?
It boils down to electricity and weird little forces.
It shouldn't, though. It's honey.
Yeah, because all kinds of little forces are going on at that level. It's either the glue is seeping into like the pores on your skin, and then the glue molecules are bonding to each other, and then they're mixing in with your skin molecules a little bit and everything. If you think about it too hard, it gets stressful.
Does it actually bond to my skin? Like actual, like kind of sharing electrons a little bit?
I think it is less common in like household adhesives. Like the Elmer's glue is not bonding to your skin and whatnot. But I think when you get to more industrial strength glues that are designed to bond to materials, then yes, it's actually integrating.
I mean, super glue feels like it is bonded to my skin.
Superglue becomes sticky and cures due to a reaction with water molecules. So when it is exposed to air, there's water vapor in the air, and your skin is moist. And so I bet it is reacting to the water molecules in your skin. So in that way, yes, because you have water in you.
Yeah, and it's probably getting into the water that's just on the other side of the skin.
Yeah.
Or like very surface level water, which makes it very sticky.
That's right.
Almost, one might say super sticky.
Yeah. I feel like I know roughly what glue is now. Do we know where the word came from? Because it's a good one. I agree with it.
It is a great one.
Good one.
Glue.
It is one of those that has stuck around for a while. It comes from the Old French glue, which...
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Still there, which meant glue, or specifically bird lime, which is a way that people used to catch birds. So they used to like mush up
This sounds
mistletoe berries or other plant sappy things and spread them on the branches of trees and catch birds. And then birds would get stuck, and then you could presumably eat them for meat, collect them for feathers. And it's been used in various forms. There isn't one recipe for bird lime. It's just glue that you use to trap birds on trees in cultures around the world.
I had no idea about bird. I mean, it makes sense that when there's food flying around, you just make something sticky and be like, that's mine now. Like the way that we do with flies, but not for food. One time I had a spider trap in my basement, and I put it there. And this was an old house. And I came back like 6 months later, and it was just pure spider. So I was like one of the sticky that get stuck to it spider traps. And I picked it up. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then I kind of might want to look at him. So I like kind of got close to it. And then one of the spiders lunged at me.
No, Hank.
It was like,
there he is. The evil god who's trapped us here.
Only a spider would be like, there he is, God. Let's get him.
He truly saw you as the insufferable Hulk and went, I think I can take him.
There's that insufferable Hulk himself.
He could totally take me.
But before we had the word glue, we had Latin glutenum, which is also related to gluten. So that's where we got that word, which is just any sort of like sticky glue stuff from plants or other things. But the Greek word for glue was kala, which we see in collagen, which is the structural protein in connective tissue. So we got the word gluten and glutinous from Latin, and we got the word collagen from Greek. But they were all referring back to glue. We had sticky stuff, and we needed words to describe it, and they stuck around because glue's a good word.
Got sticky stuff from day one. There's sticky stuff everywhere.
Since we were talking, we knew that stuff was sticky, which makes sense because even if we still don't understand the science, we can still go around touching things and say, hey, that's sticky.
We understand the science well enough to be like, that's sticky.
Yeah.
I feel informed, and so now it must be time to move on to the quiz portion of our show. This week, we're going to be playing a little bit of secret ingredient. Humans have been making glue out of all sorts of materials, which is a testament to both how sticky nature can be and how creative humans are when it comes to trying to get things to stick together. So today, we're going to highlight a few of those ingenious glue recipes. I'll describe some kind of glue, past or present, minus one key ingredient. You'll have three possible options to choose from. It's up to you to guess what the secret ingredient is. Are you ready?
Glue.
Are you a glue Pokemon now?
That's how I say yes now. Glue.
In 2022, researchers published their results designing an adhesive material that could be used in a variety of surfaces, including metal, plastic, glass, even biological tissue. This glue involves using water to activate fibers from a source found in nature, which allowed scientists to then shape the fibers into sticky structures for different adhesive purposes. But what was the source of those fibers? Was it pumpkin or mistletoe or eggs?
Do eggs have fibers? I never looked at an egg and was like, that's got fibers in it.
Does everything sticky have fibers?
They have polymers. They have protein.
What's a fiber?
You eat fiber, like in plant fibers. It's like the roughage, like fiber molecularly, biochemically is a carbohydrate. It's like a sugar.
Okay. Well, and you said the mistletoe thing already.
Mistletoe, pumpkin both have fiber.
Yeah. Okay.
Pumpkin, stringy and gooey.
That's right.
Mistletoe, I think they used it for
Yeah.
for capturing birds.
So does that mean this is a trick, or does that mean that you just overlapped a little bit here?
I don't know.
I guess I'll go with pumpkin. They're one of the stickier things, I think, that you could grow in the ground.
I don't love the way I feel after carving a pumpkin.
I'm going to overthink it. Okay, I'm going to go with mistletoe to try not to overthink it. But it's just
good.
Egg.
That was the correct instinct, Sari.
Oh, no.
That's good. I mean, you knew about the mistletoe
That's
thing,
true.
so this is
You
amazing.
earned
So mistletoe it's a parasitic plant, so it uses the substance, a sticky substance called viscin or vicin that surrounds the seeds to do some stickiness. And when birds eat mistletoe berries, they excrete the seeds along with the sticky viscin, which can then get stuck to the trees and branches where the mistletoe can germinate. Researchers can make up to 2 meters of these viscin fibers, and the stiffness of the fibers changes with the humidity. With more humidity, the fibers become more self-adhesive. So researchers developed a way to process wet viscin fibers and stretch them into either a film or into 3D structures, creating an adhesive structure that could potentially be used to like even seal up wounds.
cool.
A bird poops on your wound and it closes up. Is that how it works?
Don't put bird poop in your wounds. We're not doctors here at SciShow Tangents, but I don't think that's allowed. Round number 2. Sometimes taking inspiration from nature leads researchers to actually improving upon it. For example, another group of scientists in that same year, 2022, developed an adhesive inspired by protein produced by a particular animal. But instead of just copying the protein directly, the researchers added smaller units of the protein to a synthetic polymer and found that it actually performed better as an adhesive compared to the original protein. But what animal was it? Was it mussels or frogs or barnacles?
None of those I was thinking spider.
Yeah.
But I guess there are a lot of
They're
sticky
always-
animals.
They're always doing stuff with spiders. When you search for glue news, a lot of spider stuff. I think I did see some mussel stuff too, though, so I'm going to say mussels.
I feel like there's news about all of this stuff.
Oh, but they're not the ones that stick to stuff. Do mussels stick to stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They attach
Okay.
themselves to like a underwater pillar, like a dock.
Okay, sure.
Barnacles do too.
Okay.
There was an episode of Tangents where I talked about frogs that glued themselves
I
to each other
remember
to
that
have
too,
sex.
yeah.
It was like
Uh-huh.
early Tangents.
Yeah.
But I think that was a couple years ago. So old news, not 2022. I'm over. I'm going to go barnacle. I'm going to go barnacle.
Well, mussels stick to rocks using a strong adhesive protein that's found in their foot. And a number of researchers have been looking at mussel slime to figure out ways to turn it into adhesive for various applications. This is also true for barnacles, but in this case, this was a mussel thing. So the proteins found in the mussel slime, they have these long linear chains of amino acids that belong to a broader class of sequences called tandem repeat proteins, basically made of repeats of a given amino acid sequence. Other sticky materials like spider silk are also tandem repeat proteins. And while scientists know the sequence of these proteins, recreating their overall structure can be super complicated. So this group of scientists decided to look instead at something called protein-like polymers. Instead of trying to reconstruct the original protein out of the repeating units, they took individual units and added them to that synthetic polymer and tested how good it was. And it was even stronger than the muscle proteins.
Wow. Like every animal in the world's really good at making sticky goop. How come?
I don't know if every
We like all rule at it.
But yeah, I mean, in general, one thing you can say is that we're pretty goopy.
Every single one of us is goopy. That's
Yeah.
what unites us all and across this planet.
I
If
think this is
only-
the new Memento Mori. It's Memento Goopy.
Memento
Goopy.
Remember, we all goop.
That's the more positive one. You don't have to die first before that.
Yeah, you just get to, but you do have to be goop the whole time.
You do. Yeah.
Inside me, I have lots of goop. So
I'm just
that
a
is
big
not a
goop.
problem.
It's weird to be a big goop, you guys. Do you ever feel like it's both sort of an element of freedom from all of the stress of day-to-day life, but also just a terrible weight of its own to carry around? That we're just a bunch of goop that has anxiety.
I mostly think it's really bad because it's always trying to come out of you. And
Right. The goop in particular. It'd be great if you could just, I don't want anybody to see it.
I would like the goop to just give me one freaking day of my life, please, to live and not be goopy.
And I'm just barely held together by like my bones and the structural tissue in here. Otherwise, take those out. Full goo.
Yeah.
Full goo. Just
yeah. And not even like composed like a slug. I don't have that tightness in me without my bones. I would be a mess.
You don't have that tightness of a slug, generally considered one of the tighter animals.
Yeah, you look at a slug and you're like, damn, that's a tight animal. Yeah.
All right, round number 3. While the previous 2 rounds might have you thinking that 2022 was some particularly good year for glue, the truth is that humans have been making glue for a long time. And in China, researchers have been studying old bricks, including one from a 2,000-year-old tomb, from various locations to understand how they were made. Some of these very strong bricks were made by mixing sand and lime, which came from heated limestone, with a particular substance that glued everything together. What was the secret ingredient? Was it sticky rice, bamboo, or volcanic ash?
Is this one we've done? Have we talked about this before, Sari?
I think it might be.
Sure
you were trying to act. Sari was trying to act so normal. Her face was like uncharacteristically.
I do not have a good poker face at all.
No, you're about 5 pixels on my computer screen right now, and you're the size of a postage stamp, and you still are like, Sari's lying to me right now.
Well,
if I remember correctly, and you're about to answer before me to totally give it away. I know that's what you were about to do, wasn't it? The answer is sticky rice, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think it's sticky rice, too. I think I talked about this in a different... We just talked about goo a lot, I think.
Sari loves talking about... I think
it's hard to keep it all straight here at SciShow Tangents. I mean, eventually we're going to have to forget all of the stuff that we learned in this podcast, right?
This is a greatest hits episode.
Yeah. So sticky rice. Isn't that cool? The thing is that it's so cool.
Isn't that? It is really cool.
It is extremely cool. Like, who thought, let's take some food and put it in?
Food can be sticky, too.
It's sticky. Mm-hmm. So it makes for good brick binders thanks to something called amylopectin, which is a polymer with these long branching chains that probably help to grip onto other surfaces in components inside of the brick. It makes sense. It's almost like putting rebar inside of concrete. It's like you have this other thing that is providing structure in a different way, and that means that it can then be strong in a different way. Though I will say that volcanic ash was a popular ingredient in concrete in other countries, but it was not readily available for use in China. To all the people out there who hadn't known about the sticky rice and maybe were thinking about volcanic ash. All right. Well, it's a tie ball game, everybody. We're going to take a little short break right now, and then we'll be back for the tiebreaker. It's going to be the fact off. SciShow Tangents is brought to you by Rocket Money, a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. As you know, Tangents is a show about science. With that in mind, I've gone out into the field to do some personal research for this ad. Join me as I observe in his natural habitat the money dummy, a lowly creature who lacks the natural ability to know how many subscription services he's even subscribed to.
Another beautiful day being a money dummy without a care in the world. I'm one of the 75% of people who have subscription services that I've forgotten about, just sucking away at my bank account like a tick on a deer. But that's okay with me. Who needs extra money? Now to just have a drink from this pond. Gulp, gulp.
Rawr.
Oh no!
Dear Lord, there was a money smarty in that pond, laying in wait for the hapless money dummy. Why, she's devoured him whole!
Foolish money dummy. I, the money smarty, use that extra money to become a deadly predator and get the drop on you. But here's my dark secret. I used to be a money dummy too. Evolution happened real fast, I guess. That is, until I used Rocket Money to find and cancel my unwanted subscriptions and cancel the ones I didn't want. Then I used Rocket Money to monitor my spending and build budgets until I became the impressive specimen you see today. And I'm not alone. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. And if you had gotten Rocket Money, money dummy, you'd be a money smarty too, instead of my dinner.
That's really interesting. Too bad I didn't know.
And so the beauty and horror of nature laid bare. And what did we learn? How about to stop wasting your money on things you don't use? Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/tangents. That's rocketmoney.com/tangents. rocketmoney.com/tangents.
SciShow Tangents is brought to you by Shopify, the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage and everywhere in between. Sari and Hank, can you name anything that works so well it's practically magic?
Dragonflies.
Toilets.
What? Yeah, okay. Well, here's one off the top of my head. How about selling with Shopify? Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, and it helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms.
Ooh.
Not to mention, it's got award-winning customer support there to help you on your path to success. And those are just a few reasons to love Shopify. But Hank, what does your company, DFTBA, like so much about Shopify?
We've been using Shopify, I think, for over 10 years now, and it really has scaled extremely effectively with us. It is both a huge amount of information at your fingertips, but also in a way that makes it fairly easy to make the decisions you need to make, learn the things you need to learn, and do the things you need to do. It's all in there. And it's one of the great joys of my life is going into the Shopify backend and being like, look at all these people who wanted a thing that I had.
What a rich life you lead indeed.
And if you want to experience great joys like that too, I've got a magic trick for you. Poof! You can now try Shopify for a month for only $1. That's right. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tangents. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/tangents now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in, and experience the little joys of looking at the back end of a store. Shopify.com/TANGENTS. All lowercase. Abracadabra.
Welcome back, everybody. Now get ready for the fact off. Our panelists have all brought science facts to present in an attempt to blow my mind. And after they have presented their facts, I will judge the most mind-blowing one and give it the win. But to decide who goes first, I have a trivia question. This year, Sotheby's put up a letter known as the May 2 Penny Black for auction. One of its notable features was its stamp, known as the Penny Black. The stamp featured an image of Queen Victoria, and on its back was gum arabic, which helped stick the stamp to the envelope, making the Penny Black the first adhesive stamp to be used in a public postage system. In what year was this letter sent?
When did mail happen? When we were like...
You're going to have to guess.
Ugh.
I feel like a lot of these social services kind of happened later than you'd think they would. I don't remember what's making me think that, but a previous episode of Tangents, I was like, whoa, that didn't happen till then? And I can't remember what it was. But maybe like, do you think Shakespeare was mailing stuff?
Not with a stamp, not with a postage stamp.
Yeah, not with a system. There was a person, just like hiring children on the street, probably.
It doesn't matter because I don't know what year Shakespeare is from. I think it happened in 1850.
I think early 1900. I think like right before the World War. So 1910 or so.
Indeed, it was 1840, Sam.
Oh.
Before this, the postage system worked by having the postage people arrive with the mail and say, here's your mail, here's how much it costs to get it. And a lot of times people would be like, no. And that was a lot of extra trouble that they weren't getting paid for to like not deliver the mail. And so they were like, now the person sending the mail should pay for it. And that way the person receiving it just gets it for free. Which
That makes a lot more sense, actually.
It does make more sense, but also it's like I'm the one getting the thing.
Yeah, but you could really ruin somebody's life by mailing them so much stuff, don't you think?
Just like I have to keep saying no. There was this thing, I don't know if it still exists, but when I was a kid, you could get stuff COD.
Cash on delivery.
Cash on delivery.
Yeah, I feel like I lived through the like no cash on delivery at the end of like infomercials and stuff age. So that must have been when people were putting their foot down.
I remember I sent something I sent a Magic the Gathering card cash on delivery once when I would sell Magic cards on CompuServe.
What a cool story.
That's a word for it, Sam.
What a cool sentence you just said.
What an extraordinarily hip and not at all nerdy sentence that was. And also that means that you get to go first.
All right. Gluing stuff together is typically a one-way process. Things aren't glued together, then you put glue on them and you mush them into each other, and then they are glued together for all of time sometimes. And that's handy in some ways. Like, for instance, if you just really need two things to be stuck together and are pretty sure that you're never going to change your mind about that. But where's the glue for us indecisive people? Or for those of us who feel a lot of pressure when we're making a collage? In a digital world where nothing is permanent, we demand a glue that isn't permanent either. Luckily for us, a team of researchers out of Japan's National Institute for Material Science developed just such a glue in 2023. This glue isn't very glue-like under normal circumstances. It's not sticky. It doesn't dry when exposed to air. Two things you don't really want in your glue. But this non-sticky goop has a special ingredient. Caffeic acid, I think that's how you say that, a compound found in a lot of plants, including coffee beans and, all right, now this is chemistry, which I actually did get a D in high school. But caffeic acid contains within it acrylic. Is that a possibility? Yeah. And under certain circumstances, it can take on the properties of acrylic, as in it can become quite plasticky. And the certain circumstances that make caffeic acid plasticky is exposure to a specific wavelength of UV light. So back to this glue that is not sticky. When it is time for it to do its thing and get sticky and stick stuff together, it is painted onto the objects to be stuck together, hit with UV radiation, and it instantly hardens into an insoluble plasticky substance and bonds those objects together. And the bond it makes is really strong, too. In one test, they used it to suspend a 40-kilogram weight for 3 days straight, and it showed no signs of breaking. And then they used it to seal cracks in some pipes, and then they pumped high-pressure water through the pipes, and so that didn't break, and it's waterproof. And I haven't forgotten about the thesis statement of my fact, which is that indecisive people need an indecisive glue. Well, if you expose the glue in its hardened state to a different wavelength of UV light, it reverts back to non-sticky goop form, which can then be collected and used again later, hit with the UV light, turned hard again. So right now, this glue is being put to the test in various applications, but one day, if this is ever available to consumers, the agony and anxiety of gluing something to something else will be no more.
That's very interesting. Some people will know that like gel nail polish is this way where it hardens under UV light. And that's the same thing. It's like causing it to like the UV radiation is causing it to polymerize. But like the idea of a different wavelength of UV light undoing it also to me seems dangerous. Like, is there none of that UV light around? Would it have to be in the shade?
That would be bad, I guess. I guess you just wouldn't build like really important things with this glue.
Yeah.
Because it'd be pretty easy to sabotage, I suppose.
To have the right wavelength. I don't know. There's lots of UV light.
I couldn't find any article that tried to explain how this worked, but how would it work?
I get how the polymerization would happen. You just like, you need to have certain sites on the monomers, the individual blocks of the polymer. You need to have like some site that would like lose an electron because it got hit with the UV light, and then it's like primed to bind to the same site or a similar site on the other side of the of another nearby monomer. But like breaking that bond is, I guess, like UV light is very high energy. Like it does a lot. That's why it gives you like sunburns and stuff. But like, I am surprised that is possible, and it's very cool. I just hope that the people from Flex Tape get their hands on it so they can make extra good infomercials about
That's
it.
what I was thinking too. I need a guy screaming at me about this glue. When you guys were in high school, did you like chemistry? Were you like, I'm good at this and I'm good at doing it? Or was that later?
I liked it in high school.
Yeah, I was a big nerd.
In between selling my Magic the Gathering cards on CompuServe, I was balancing reactions, doing stoichiometry. So
yeah, like I would do things. I would like learn chemistry jokes on the internet for fun or things like that. Or
I hate you so much.
How did we end up on a podcast together?
You would have bullied me in high school, Sam. I think you would have been like,
no, I think Sam would have tried to get you to come out and you wouldn't have come out.
That's true. I was friends with a lot of people who I helped them with their homework and then they made me marginally cooler.
That was me big time. We were, there was like, we had a ring where it was like some of us were good at science, some of us were good at history, and we'd all just like pass our homework around before.
That doesn't sound like helping each other with your homework so much as just copying each other's homework.
Well, I didn't get any better at science, so I guess you're right.
All right, Sarah, what do you got?
So when we were talking about the etymology of glue, I mentioned an animal-based substance called collagen, which is from the Greek word for glue, kala, which is a common protein that gives us strength and structure in a variety of our tissues, like your skin or bones or tendons. And it was named because it makes good glue. So some of the science couch questions that we didn't choose asked about horse glue, which I can talk a little bit about here. One of the most common types of animal glue, or was, because you don't see it very much anymore, is hide glue or bone glue, which is made from rendering out the collagen out of animals like horses or cattle or rabbits, really much like the birds that you're catching on the street, anything that's around. They die, and then you turn them into glue. Gelatin is rendered collagen also, which is why Jell-O isn't vegan, but there are plant-based alternatives to it. And you can make other types of animal glue as well. Hoof glue or horn glue, where the structural protein inside is keratin instead of collagen. And if you really don't want to waste any animal parts, you can also make blood albumin glue, where historically they would dry out all the solids from blood, so the cells and the proteins and whatnot. You can mix that powder with water and either calcium oxide, which is lime, or sodium hydroxide, which is caustic soda, to make a slurry. And then you use heat and pressure to get those blood proteins to coagulate and harden. And that makes a pretty strong and fairly water-resistant glue.
I don't know why this is giving me such a hard time, but I hate this.
I'm so normal about it, which maybe, again, brain, weird kid to the max of the three of us. But basically, this like blood glue was a precursor to synthetic resins, and it was fairly abundant because blood was otherwise a waste product from slaughterhouses and places like that.
Oh. I was thinking this was made from human blood. That makes way more sense.
Oh, yeah, animals. As far as I know, I'm sure someone made human glue, but I don't want to think too hard about it.
Yeah. Well, look, blood, you can give up a certain amount, but you're right. We have a ton of blood available, not like humans, not in our bodies, but like as the raisers of livestock.
Yes, as species who raise other animals. I found two main historical uses for blood glue that felt worth mentioning. Before we had plastics, like the thermosetting resin Bakelite, which was patented in 1907. We've talked about it on the podcast before and used for things like billiard balls or bracelets or things like that. A French guy named Francois Charles Lepage patented what he called bois d'arcy, which means hardened wood, in 1856. And basically what he did, he took animal blood plus sawdust and then a heated pressure mold to produce dense, glossy items like picture frames or combs or plaques with people's faces etched into them or whatever he could dream up. So instead of using like wood glue or epoxy resin like we would nowadays, he just used blood glue for his arts and crafts, which is very weird.
That's cool.
Was this similar to Bakelite?
It was like the precursor to it. So I don't know if it directly inspired it, but yes, similar in that it was a thermosetting, like it needed heat and pressure to then harden and solidify into this glossy shape. And it looked kind of similar, except for darker red-brown. And then the other main use for blood glue, I could find that it was used from at least World War I, so the 19-teens, to the 1930s or so, but possibly longer, to make, it was used to make plywood that was relatively water resistant for all kinds of construction of boats or airplanes or other structures, because those plant glues or resins weren't as waterproof, and this heat compressed blood was.
In an age of the problems of microplastics, let's bring it on back.
And I found some of this blood plastic, and it looks
cool.
pretty good. Yeah.
There was a bunch of doorknobs, and I'm like, man, if I had a blood plastic doorknob, I think I'd be the most popular kid in town.
Everything we own will be blood red, which is kind of cool in a way.
Super good.
Yeah.
Just plastic vampires.
I think this is fine.
You don't have microplastics anymore. You have microblood, and that just degrades.
Microblood's fine. Everybody knows that.
That's it. That's all I got. I don't think we use blood glue or many animal glues anymore on industrial scales because plastic is cheaper in the way that plastic has overtaken many industries.
We still use animal parts for gelatin.
Yes, we still use animal parts for gelatin. And I'm sure there are people who still make animal glues. Like, I don't want to rule it out completely. There's people who use every piece of the animal, etc.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know about blood glue. I never thought about it before.
It seems hard.
It
seems like you'd need specific equipment. Oh, that's a lot of pressure to have to squeeze these objects together. Oh, yeah. I want some now.
I do too.
I hated this, and now I'm really into it.
I mean, it definitely looks like a bunch of stuff Dracula would have in his house.
Yeah, for sure.
Take a little nibble of his doorknob.
That'd be the problem. He'd lick it every once in a while.
He'd be licking them all the time.
It'd be a regular Hansel and Gretel house.
Yeah, it's like those videos where like something in the room is made of chocolate, except for Dracula. Is this cake? Well, now I'm in trouble because I have to choose between these two very good facts. We've got blood glue, also making objects pre-plastic, and also a reversible glue that uses UV light for the indecisive and anxious. I think I'm gonna give it to Sari because I got brought on the whole journey. I hated it and then I loved it. I think that's a better fact overall.
When the person who brings this back says, I learned about this on a podcast, SciShow Tangents, and they're winning the Nobel Prize for saving the world, then this will all have been worth it.
You know what I want really bad? Is like blood glue, like vinyl record, or like even like just the case of a cassette tape.
That would rule.
Mm-hmm.
And you could like listen to some like Nordic death metal on it.
That'd
be so good.
And the thing is you do it with a doctor. We're not doctors. A musician could theoretically, I don't know how much blood you need, but you could donate, extract some of your blood over time.
Yeah.
Mix it with some sawdust and press your vinyl records with your own blood, which is very wild to think about. The ultimate marketing campaign. Instead of owning a piece of your hair, you can be like, this was made with my blood.
I think that I would like purchase fewer plastic bottles if I had to make everyone out of my blood.
This is really, personal responsibility coming back around.
And now it's time for Ask the Science Couch, where we ask a listener question to our couch of finely honed scientific minds.
At Matthew Gatos on Twitter asked, why doesn't it stick inside of the bottle? What a stupid question.
Matthew is a friend of ours. So glues are activated by a bunch of different things. So we talked about some of the things they can be activated: UV light, water. Oftentimes there's a solvent that is evaporating, and inside of the bottle, the concentration of the solvent is so high that it can't evaporate anymore. So the pressure of the solvent inside of the bottle is keeping it in solution. This is like my bag.
That's crazy.
Inside of the bottle is different from outside of the bottle is the main thing to know. What did I miss anything, Sari?
No, I think I just have more details, but that's basically it. The glue manufacturers want it to not stick inside the bottle, and so they've designed the inside of the bottle, and they've designed the glue chemicals to not be sticky there in many cases. And there are different kinds of glues, like you mentioned. The main buckets that I kind of mentally sort them in, there's like non-curing glues. So there's glues that stay sticky basically, which are sticky notes, tape, things like that, where if you unstick them and restick them, they'll still adhere. The only way that they'll stop kind of is if they have too much junk on them, if it's dirty. So there's too much stuff stuck to them already for them to stick to something else.
You could even clean them off and they would be sticky again.
And so that those kind of stickies, they're non-curing. They don't lock into place when they polymerize. Then there's curing that doesn't involve a complex chemical reaction. So a lot of like craft or hobby glues, like Elmer's glue, is just water plus the polymer. And when the water evaporates out, the polymer locks into place. And so then that becomes like the glue sticking in place.
Right.
Or there are, like Hank said, other solvents that are in the glue. So rubber cement, you apply it to both surfaces. You let it like flash off, which basically means you let the solvents evaporate, and then you smush the glue together.
Wow.
And then the glue coheres to itself.
Yeah.
That's the cohesion of it. And then there's reactive curing, which are the glues that are in two separate chambers, kind of. A lot of two-part glues are this like reaction curing, where if you just put half of that glue on a surface, it'll never lock up. It'll never stick the two objects together. You need that chemical reaction to form the polymers that form the sticky stuff. And so that glue, the reactive curing glues, will never stick inside the bottle because they're designed not to. Whereas those like non-reactive curing, if they evaporate in some way, like super glue, like we mentioned, you need water vapor. So there's no water vapor inside the bottle, but there is outside the bottle. Once you have a half empty bottle, it might start sticking at the inside of the bottle because then the outside's inside the bottle. I mean, you can't have that if you want your glue to remain liquidy.
That's why they sell very small bottles of super glue that are basically single use.
Yeah.
Which maybe we wouldn't do if we had to build them out of our blood.
We would find a way.
Yeah. So basically the super glue is a reactive glue, but they don't have to have the separate chamber because the stuff that would be in the separate chamber is in the environment.
Yes.
Oh.
And there's some weird glues. Another person in the Discord asked about thread lock adhesives or thread lockers, which you put on like a bolt. And then you screw the bolt into a nut and then it sticks. And those don't need oxygen to react. They need the metals to react. So specifically, those thread lockers say don't use with plastic because it'll dissolve plastic. But when those are, I think they're made of acrylic, some sort of acrylic compound, they cure when in contact with metal, because metal has all these extra electrons around, is reactive in certain ways. And those glues polymerize when they're in contact with metal without oxygen, which is like very weird. So there's glues for all kinds of situations. And that's why a lot of glues, like there are all-purpose glues, but a lot of glues are for gluing specific things. Like Elmer's glue is good for paper because the paper allows the water to evaporate. But it's not so good if you are gluing two like rubbery things together because then the water has nowhere to go.
You said glue a lot of times.
I did. I heard myself say it, and then I saw you laughing. And then, I just kept going. I don't know.
Well, if you want to ask the Science Couch your questions, you can follow us on Twitter at SciShow Tangents, or check out our YouTube community tab where we will send out topics for upcoming episodes every week. Or you can join the SciShow Tangents Patreon and ask us on our Discord. Thank you to the Space Say on Discord, at RS Turtleness on YouTube, and everybody else who asked us your questions for this episode. If you like this show and you want to help us out, you can do that in a bunch of ways. Number one, go to patreon.com/SciShowTangents to become a patron. Get access to our bonus episodes and our Minions movie commentary, which, come on.
And Cars too.
Also the Cars commentary. You can find out what's inside of the Cars.
We kind of do, and it's scary.
It's not. It's upsetting. Shout out to patron Les Aker for their support in particular. Thank you. Second, you can leave us a review wherever you listen. That's super helpful and helps us know what you think about the show. And finally, if you want to show your love for SciShow Tangents, just tell people about us. Thank you for joining us. I've been Hank Green.
I've been Sari Riley.
And I've been Sam Schultz.
SciShow Tangents is created by all of us and produced by Jess Stempert. Our associate producer is Eve Schmidt. Our editor is Seth Glixman. Our social media organizer is Julia Buzz Bazzaio. Our editorial assistant is Debuki Chakravarti. Our sound design is by Joseph Tuna-Medish. Our executive producers are Nicole Sweeney and me, Hank Green. And, of course, we couldn't make any of this without our patrons on Patreon. Thank you, and remember, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be lighted. one more thing. Sometimes, because of an infection or injury, a very small tube called a fistula can form inside of your body where it does not belong, like in your lungs or blood vessels or even your anus, causing leaks that you definitely don't want. One way that doctors try to seal up anal fistulas is with Fibrin glue, which is a 2-part biological adhesive made of 2 molecules involved in wound healing and clotting. Basically, after treating the infection, doctors squeeze the glue inside the anal fistula to seal it up and let your body heal. I'm very glad that's a thing. I didn't just find out now, but I was upset the first time I found out what a fistula was.
Mhm.
It didn't sound like what it was.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be a lump or like an infected lump or something, but it is a hole where it doesn't belong, which is very weird and upsetting to think about.
Wild that can happen.
Your body can just do that your body can break in that way.
I feel like on construction, maybe that could happen. Like you could be born with a problem like that. But once I'm set, like I'm built, I shouldn't develop new tubes.
We're just goo. We're just goo, and we can sometimes get punctured, I guess.
Yeah.
But from the inside.
Got issues.